Hello, everybody, and welcome to our webinar today. I'm going to give everybody a few minutes to enter in. We had quite a few people registering, so yeah, it's good to see everybody ready to talk about DMV operations for tribes. It's a great topic. We always get actually a lot of questions about it here at TribalHub, so I'm really happy to have this webinar today with Arctic IT and our friends at Eastern Shawnee Tribe. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Michelle. I'm part of the TribalHub team, and Blake from Arctic IT will introduce our panelists here in just a few minutes, as soon as everybody gets in and gets ready. The session today will be about an hour long, 45 to 60 minutes. There is an opportunity for questions, and there's going to be a roundtable, so lots of time for you guys to ask your questions. To the ladies that are on the call today, make sure to use the chat box or the Q&A feature to get your questions answered. Following the webinar, everybody will receive a copy, a link to listen to the webinar again or share it with anybody on your team who may not have been able to make it today. So a few housekeeping things. Oh, and also our friends at Arctic IT are also going to be at TribalNet. So if you had any questions where you're like, gosh, I need to make sure I follow up with them. If you're going to TribalNet, they will be there also. So make sure you stop by and say hi to them. They are one of our great TribalHub associate member partners, and we're super appreciative for them being here today, sharing this information. So I think on that note, Blake, I think we have quite a few people in, and so we are ready to get rolling.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Michelle.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure to be here with everyone. We're grateful for your attendance today and looking forward to our conversation today. So our speakers today, just to highlight real quickly, you'll get to hear shortly from some of our good friends at the Eastern Shawnee Tribe of Oklahoma, Jana Johnson and Mary Alumbaugh. They'll be joining us in a few minutes on a panel discussion. And then myself, Blake, I'm the pre-sale solution architect with Arctic IT over our tribal platform solutions, which we'll talk about a little bit today. And I'm also joined by my colleague, Sarah Jelinek, who's our director of Power Platform and Tribal Solutions here at Arctic IT. And want to spend the time today sharing a little bit about what Arctic IT is seeing and doing to facilitate the modernization of technology solutions for tribal government, specifically for tribal motor vehicle departments today. And again, we're thrilled to have some of our friends from Eastern Shawnee to share their experiences implementing a new solution on modern cloud technologies and what that's taken and some of the benefits they've seen from that. So to kick it off, I want to talk briefly just about some of the challenges that we see across the landscape today with DMV organizations, but also more generally in tribal government, and then what it takes to potentially move to the cloud. We'll talk just briefly about our tribal platforms offerings, of which our titles and tag solutions is one of those pieces. And then we'll get into our kind of main event for this webinar, which is our discussion with our amazing guests. So jumping into just kind of what we see as far as different operational challenges across the landscape. And as we're going through these, think about maybe if some of these things resonate with you. One of the operational challenges that we encounter often with organizations we work with, and I've experienced this too in my organization and other organizations I've been a part of, is the challenge of cross-departmental collaboration and communication and information sharing. Sometimes we get stuck in our silos, if you will, within our department. And for better or for worse, we focus heads down on just our component. But then it becomes challenging to coordinate or collaborate with other departments. Sometimes proximity gets in the way, right? If you're not in the same room or the same building or infrastructure of the organization, oftentimes technology can be that limiting factor, which is something that we want to overcome. We don't want technology to get in the way of our good, efficient, collaborative work, but we want it to be a facilitator of that. So thinking from a perspective of a tribal DMV, which is really kind of our focus for today's conversation, one example might be the challenge of validating membership status of individuals that come in your door as they're looking to register their vehicles. Another operational challenge that we often encounter is the lack of digital service offerings. Now, with the way technology is becoming more integrated into every part of life, people are more and more expecting to be able to receive services digitally. You can order your clothes online, you can now order your groceries online, and a lot of the programs also that tribes offer. Increasingly, more and more, we're seeing a desire and a need from the member bases to access those services digitally, especially for individuals that might live in more rural or remote areas, and also with the younger generation as their connection to technology is great. Having those digital services or lack thereof can be a challenge. And what do we do to extend services in that manner to our members, to our people? An example from the DMV perspective might be the challenge of providing in-person vehicle registration services to members when they live very far away, right? If we require them to come in, that can be a burden on them. Um, as far as manual processes go, this is another operational challenge that we all encounter, and something we work actively to overcome is the manual tedious work. You've all experienced this. I'm sure I've experienced this, where you feel like you're not able to use your expertise and your talents at its highest and best use because you're having to do this manual data entry or things that hopefully one day can be automated. Whether that's manual redundant data entry or manual validation that information is good, or manual report writing, putting together reports for management or leadership, or just for yourself, or for grant reporting and things like that, or even the manual intake of service requests. All of those things take away from our ability to really use our talents at our best and highest use. An example on the DMV side I can think of is maybe the manually transferring of data from a filled out form. So if someone comes in with their paper form that they've requested, a title, for example, if they filled that on paper, now you got to type that into your system, or scan it and put it in your file cabinet. That's extra work. That's duplicate work that ideally we could automate. And then concerns around security and data sovereignty are always forefront of our minds. As a trusted tribal partner, we recognize and appreciate the importance of ensuring that your data as a tribal organization, a tribal nation, is your own, that you have full jurisdiction and stewardship over it. And that's a concern and a challenge in many ways. On the DMV side, right, if you're using a commercial or maybe a state provided DMV software solution, that could require putting sensitive tribal data and personal information into an external database that might be accessible by other parties. So different things we think about as we're working with our trusted tribal partners. In thinking about these challenges, I asked the question to those attending today, if you've had any experience with similar operational challenges. Do you find difficulty in collaborating across departments, or do you wish you could better connect with your members through a digital front, or are you bogged down by tedious, manual, repetitive work, or do you share similar concerns around the protections and security of your data? If so, Arctic IT has a solution for this. And I'm going to talk a little bit more later about who Arctic IT is if you're not familiar with us. But our solution for this is what we call titles and tags on our tribal platforms. This is a modern cloud tribal DMV solution. And as a cloud-based platform, you get access to your operational information and your workflows from anywhere on any device with an internet connection. And because it's cloud-based, there's no hardware setup, there's no servers to maintain, there's no software to install, there's no physical overhead really at all. You get access to best-in-class security provided by Microsoft, who provides the foundation for the solutions that Arctic IT deploys. And this comes with specialized security roles to meet your organization's security needs. It also comes with special protections and guarantees around data sovereignty. With this, you get a single platform that can be expanded with other Arctic IT offerings to provide operations for different departments within tribal government, with the ultimate goal being of breaking down those silos and facilitating better collaboration and information sharing. You get the ability to offer services digitally to your members through a connected web portal. You get the benefits of a tailor-made workflow automation, data validation, streamlined data import and export procedures, and robust and user-friendly reporting tools and capabilities. With Arctic IT, you get white glove support service directly from our US-based support team, which includes unlimited break fix support, strategic planning sessions, training, onboarding assistance. And then because this is built on the Microsoft cloud, you also get native integration capabilities with many of Microsoft's products and services, including Entra ID, Word, Excel, SharePoint, Teams, and other Azure services. So all of this kind of comes as part of this package that Arctic IT offers, which is our titles and tags solution. Now, when I say cloud-based, sometimes that can cause some trepidation for organizations or departments that have not yet maybe made that jump to the cloud. So I want to just address that and take a minute to speak about what it might take to move to the cloud. With modern cloud offerings available today, including the security posture that you get with a lot of those higher end offerings, and also guarantees of data sovereignty, which we've talked about, there's really fewer and fewer scenarios we're seeing where it makes sense to stay on premise. Arctic IT, as a technology implementing and also technology consulting company, is happy and eager to sit down and have that conversation with you to see what makes the most sense in terms of moving to the cloud for you and for your department. Ultimately, we want you to be able to make the right decision for your organization and your tribe. But again, we're seeing more and more that the pros heavily outweigh the cons in making a move to the cloud. And some of the considerations or scenarios that we see most often might be coming from, for example, paper documents in file cabinets, in manila folders, bringing that to a digital format for a modern cloud solution does take some work. And Arctic IT is happy to work with you to make that transition if that's the direction you're looking to head. This can be somewhat difficult in some cases since you don't have the data in a physical or in a digital format. But there's tools that we work with to help parse and digitize that data and scan those documents. Maybe you find yourself in that middle box here, circle, importing data from spreadsheets. If you've got your data today in Excel spreadsheets or other spreadsheet formats, that makes it a little bit easier. There may be some normalization of data to prep it for a relational database, but Arctic IT is happy to assist with transferring that data. Or maybe you have it in a legacy on-premise database today. And again, Arctic IT specializes in data migration and is happy to work with you to bring that data across. So knowing that in the cloud, your data can be as secure and in many cases more secure than your on-premise data, without having to worry about things like natural disasters or physical security, and then the guarantees of infrastructural security and sovereignty around that really adds a lot of benefit and makes that decision a lot easier for organizations in the modern day to move to the cloud. But if you have additional questions around that process, what that looks like, what are some of the challenges and how we overcome that, don't hesitate to reach out. We're more than happy to consult and share expertise on what it would take to get your organization into a cloud environment and on a cloud modern solution. So with that said, in mentioning the importance of breaking down silos, I want to take just a minute to just give a little context around Arctic IT and our tribal platforms solution. So what Arctic IT offers is not just a tribal DMV software solution, but really a whole suite, a whole wheelhouse of tailor-made solutions for tribal government and the different departments therein, with the goal being of centralizing data where possible. So instead of having a bunch of different software options, a bunch of different vendors, a bunch of different agreements and licenses, bringing that all into one central, consolidated, accessible platform that all of government can potentially use. So Arctic IT has solution offerings within this tribal platforms ecosystem that includes solutions for enrollment, for ID card printing, for child and family wellness, for social services and programs, for tribal court and also wellness courts for housing, for education and scholarship, things like distribution payments, loan management, grant management, natural resource permitting, tribal finance, elections and voter management, and others. Again, with the goal of bringing all of that onto one shared platform while still providing distinct and secure and separate workspaces with unique workflows and processes for each department and each user group. But that said, we're here to talk about one of our newest solutions that we're thrilled to bring to market, and this is our Tribal Platforms Titles and Tags solution. And here to talk about this is my esteemed colleague, Sarah Jelinek.
Thank you, Blake. It's my pleasure to give you an introduction to tribal platforms, titles, and tags today. This solution is designed to help tribal governments manage the complete vehicle title and tag registration process in one place. Whether it's issuing a new title, renewing registrations, transferring ownership, replacing lost documents, reviewing historical records, the system is going to support that entire life cycle for tags and for titles and tags. Instead of working across multiple spreadsheets, as Blake showed us, it's a challenge that you may encounter, or dealing with paper files, disconnected systems, staff will have everything they need in a single application. Now, because this is built on the Microsoft Power Platform, staff are not limited to working from their desks. As Blake talked about, having a robust cloud solution gives us the benefit that authorized users can securely access this information either from another tribal office, working remotely, or even from a mobile device in the field. That makes this process a lot useful not only for office staff, but imagine for law enforcement or other personnel that might need to quickly look up vehicle information and or title information, when they're away from the office. So it gives us that capability to keep that vehicle and title records tracking all in one system, making it easier to search for that information, the ownership history, registration status, access related documents, having everything in that one place to reduce duplicate work, making sure that information is much easier to find. Also to mention, when we're talking about that vehicle and title record tracking, if you operate commercial or fleet vehicles, we have the capability for you to manage that not only with your member vehicles and registrations, but manage that within the same platform, and obviously meeting your unique needs that you may have for that. Where I think this is a really helpful tool is using the power of technology for fee automation and accounting support. We know that every tribe is going to have different fees, different rates they're calculating, maybe based on the age of a vehicle, the type of a vehicle, maybe where it's actually located. You might have state fees that you need to account for as well. So to help eliminate some of that manual work, potential data entry error or calculation problems, we actually have the ability to automatically calculate your fees based on your unique rules. We're going to see a preview of that in some of our screenshots coming up of looking at what the titles and tags solution can offer your tribe. Now, with some of our systems, you may have some generic certificates and tag printing done, but with our system, we can identify and adapt this to your tribe's unique needs, making sure that we've got your logo printing on that information, your appropriate contact details, making sure it meets your regulation purposes with printing that information. So that's going to help standardize the documents that are being issued to members. And secure document storage. This is probably one of the biggest challenges that Blake has mentioned that we see is having the access to those documents. I don't have to go dig into a file cabinet deep in a file room to find some supporting information. If you want to use technology, you can scan that detail, upload it, and be able to access that from your computer, from your tablet device, or from your mobile phone if you want to allow that. And one of the most important things that we find, as well as with titles and tags, is the configurable reporting. Using the system to create your unique reports to meet your needs, maybe tracking your renewals, the revenue that's coming in, any outstanding transactions, any renewals that are coming up, being able to track the metrics of how busy you are so you know what your busy time of year is going to be, any other information that's helpful and important to your organization, this system will help you get the metrics that you need very easily. And the great thing about it is that it's a very easy to use system to build your own queries, your own reports if you want to. So let's actually take a look at some of the solution benefits that we're going to have with titles and tags. So for our centralized vehicle information, this is going to help remove those silos for data storage, a filing cabinet that's got scanned documents, a separate application system that's got some of the details, but not in a consistent location. So making sure that we're tracking that information accordingly. Your automated fee calculation and receipts. I live in the state of North Dakota, and I've been told that we have a pretty complex fee structure when it comes to registering vehicles or issuing titles and tags. So let's actually use the power to make sure that's a consistent calculation process all the time. We'll show you an example of that with a fee transaction of how you can indicate which items you want to have calculated and see the breakout of those fees. Now, of course, you're going to be recording some of those payments that are coming in. Someone might be paying via cash or via check or credit card or all three. So how do we track that information when it comes in? So we have a streamlined payment tracking and real-time reports built within the system. So when someone maybe does a partial payment or does a full payment, let's make sure we track that so we can see that all the needs have been met. I talked a little bit about our generic certificate template printing. We really want to focus on identifying that this is your system and the documents that you're issuing are coming from your tribe. So we want to make sure that we have that specific tribe-specific branding, the appropriate logos, and the information that you want to have display on there. And then, of course, we talked about the fleet and commercial vehicle management functionality, being able to not only track the member vehicles, but your vehicles as well. Now, the benefit of titles and tags and tribal platforms is that it integrates with our enrollment system. So you have fewer discrepancies between systems and more time to focus on serving members. Many times, you don't know that a member has moved to a different address or a different location until they actually come in and ask for a service, like registering a vehicle. So by centralizing this and making it work with tribal platforms, we have the ability for you to submit those address change requests so we can help serve the members better by keeping their information up to date. Now, with that, Blake, I think we should take a sneak peek at what titles and tags looks like. So if we want to hop into some of our examples here, the first screen I want to take you to is the vehicle title screen. So there's a lot of information in here, but it's really helpful. It's about this particular vehicle title. We can see on the left-hand side, the details, when the original date was, the type of this document that we have here that we're working with, the status, license plate information. In the middle column, you can see the vehicle details. So there's lots of information that we're recording there. Now, one of the benefits I want to talk about working with tribal platforms is that we adapt the system to your needs. You shouldn't really have to change your processes to work with how the software works. We want to do it the other way. We want to make sure that this works for how you process your work day to day. And one of the things I'm looking at here in vehicle details is, I might want to add another characteristic that I want to track for a vehicle. We can see we've got make, model, vehicle year, vehicle age, body type. Maybe I want to track color here. All right. So with other software systems that may not have had that and you want to include it, it might be something you might not be able to indicate. You probably have to put it in a note somewhere, and it's something you can really filter on. Well, with tribal platforms, we can easily add new characteristics to these vehicle details that you want to. And more importantly, it's not just a field where you're typing something in. It could be a list of predefined vehicle colors that you want to use. Or maybe it's a list that you want to be able to modify every year or make additions to. We have that flexibility to make it easy for you to own this system because it is yours to manage your appropriate vehicle registration information. Now, across the top of the screen, you're going to see different tabs that are available. So I can see related information, having that one place to see all these details, information about the owner, any liens, the title registrations. If I need to reprint, reissue, or reissue a decal, I can have that capability all within that one screen. And more importantly, on the right-hand side, you can actually see how many times that's happened. So we can keep track of those instances. So you can see if this is a frequent return individual that tends to lose this information, that we have to reissue this quite a few times. Now, on our next screen, I want to talk a little bit about the fee transactions. So we talked about how the benefits of titles and tags is that we can take some of the guesswork out. and do those automatic calculations for you. So in this example, you can see across the top that we're working with our contact and their appropriate title ID and title registration. And now we want to calculate the fees for this transaction. So we can see the totals, we can see the total that they paid. You can see that in the top half of this window. But the really nice thing about this is that you'll see that there's some toggle options available for us. If we need to create a tax for this, if there's other fees that you need to calculate, we can customize these fee transactions if you need to enable or disable some of these features as needed. In the lower left corner, you're going to see that we can break out those fee items, showing the different types, the amounts, when that was issued. And also a very important thing is to track, did we receive payment for this? They may have paid in cash and in check, or it may have paid on different dates. You can see that payment tracking here. Now, as you're recording these transactions, the next area I want to show you is the reporting. So putting information in the system and getting it out. The top, we can see an example of our daily revenue summary. So when we're working through the different transactions, how much did we bring in through mailing fees, registration fees, title fees? And if you want to break that out even further with the transactions that have happened with an individual, the plate, the decal, we can also see how they paid and see the total amounts that we're expecting in. So this is going to be really helpful when you're working with your accounting team or your finance team, when you're bringing in these different payment methods. So you have that capability to track and have that accountability. Our last report that I want to show you is the ability for you to quickly see information broken out visually. I'm a visual person. I love charts. So if I'm looking at kind of our active fee transactions, how many we've paid per month, we can easily create these charts for you to break this out. I can see October's got quite a few fees that we've paid or information that we've collected. So here I have the ability to, if I want to, I can click on that October column and drill in and see the supporting information on the right-hand side if I want to dig into this even further. So this system was designed to help adapt to what your tribe needs for managing your Department of Motor Vehicles, tracking your titles and your registration, and making sure that you have that accountability as to what's happening with those registrations and keeping that information up to date. But Blake, I think this is a great opportunity for us now to talk to our great friends at Eastern Shawnee Tribe of Oklahoma to hear about their experience in working with a cloud-based DMV solution.
Yes, thank you so much, Sarah. On that note, I would love to introduce, or better yet, have our guests introduce themselves. So we have with us Jana Johnson from the Eastern Shawnee Tribe of Oklahoma. Jana, would you mind introducing yourself? Tell us a little bit about what you do with the Eastern Shawnee Tribe of Oklahoma. And if you wouldn't mind telling us a little bit about the tribe as well, we would love to hear.
Absolutely. So I'm Jana Johnson. I'm the Director of Health and Social Services. And within that program, we have a member benefit program, which is a reimbursement program, vital statistics, and then tribal tags. We're located in Northeast Oklahoma, and our tribe is, as of today, we have 3,984 living enrolled members. Before, I've been here 3 years, and before I came here, I was an educator. So I was in education for 24 years. The last 4 of those was in compliance for special education. So confidentiality, making sure paperwork is correct, doing things legally and appropriate is very important. And it's very important to our department.
Amazing. Thank you, Jana. And then we also have with us Mary Alumbaugh, also from the Eastern Shawnee Tribe of Oklahoma. Mary, would you mind introducing yourself? Tell us a little about what you do.
Sure. I'm Mary Alumbaugh, and I'm honored to be part of the Eastern Shawnee Arctic Tag Program. I've worked for the tribe for 9 years as their tag agent, and I help with requisitions and processing claims as needed. And I work closely with my director, Jana Johnson, to ensure our tag program runs smoothly.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Mary. Again, it's a pleasure to have you both with us today. I'm looking forward to our chat here. I will make a note for those of you listening in. If you have any questions as we're going through, questions for Jana or Mary, things that you think of as they're sharing their experiences, feel free to put those in the chat. and then we'll be able to get to hopefully as many questions as we can at the end of our time together here today. So don't hesitate to add any questions that come up. That said, I would love to get to hear more from Jana and Mary, kind of about their experiences. So for Jana first, maybe could you tell us what were some of the, I know we started this webinar talking about operational challenges, right? So I'm curious for the Eastern Shawnee Tribe of Oklahoma, what were some of the operational challenges that made the tribe decide to move to a modern titles and tags management solution?
I think that, part of it is generational. We have more and more members that are at the stage where they're using technology on a daily basis. They were requesting us going online, the accessibility, the flexibility of being able to do it wherever you're from. I think those things stimulated the conversation in the beginning. I wasn't a part of that discussion. The Arctic program was already set up when I got here. So I came in on the back end of it. And from that aspect, it was a little difficult because, well, and I'll say that in some ways it was a blessing because I didn't have a preconceived notion of what it was supposed to do or could do. So I came in with a new set of eyes. So that allowed me to look at things differently. And not only was I learning how to do all three programs, but having those conversations with Mary about, what we need, what does that look like for you, and just really having honest, candid conversations, I think is the most important thing you can have with your staff, is letting them share the good things and the bad things and how do we fix it and what do we need. We had lots of those conversations because I wasn't privy to it in the beginning. So it gave us some flexibility in conversation and communication. And I think that's super important.
Yeah, I love that point. That really it gives you a platform to be flexible, right? Kind of at its core, as Sarah mentioned too, that is one of the goals, at least in Arctic IT Solutions, is to give a platform that can be adapted, that can be expanded based on your needs. Um, for you, Mary, we would love to hear from you about, so as a user of the system, right? Like what the experience was like learning a new system and adopting a new solution. What was that experience like for you?
Well, at the very beginning, it was really hard. Um, Going from a program that you already know to something that you don't know. But, and I wish we had had a little bit more hands-on training at the beginning. But once you got in there and used it as a daily, it started getting easier and easier. And so far, it's really hard when you start something old. Start something new, change is hard, but we're working it out. It's flowing very well.
Thank you. What I
Yeah, I
love,
agree. Oh,
go
sorry.
ahead, Sarah.
I agree, Mary. Change is hard, and I know this is one of the opportunities. This is after COVID, where people weren't traveling as much, and we did have the opportunity to travel on site. I was very blessed to be able to be part of the team that got to be on site. Unfortunately, we think we had an ice storm that took one full day of our training away. So, those are things you just can't plan for, but I think it does make a difference for us as Arctic IT to be able to be on site and see what you're doing every day, Mary, what you're doing every day, Jana, to see the papers that you're moving around, the data that you're entering the system, the members that you're looking up and serving. That makes a huge difference. So I think being able to do hands-on training in-person live training makes a huge difference. Yeah, I agree that we could definitely do more of that if the weather wasn't preventing us from that. But it was a great experience, so thank you for sharing that.
I think the one thing for us is my conversation, like you said, not being involved in any of it, was having someone beside you developing the program, seeing what we do. What does that look like on the day in and day out? And that was something that we needed more of. And so we actually shut down a couple of afternoons and got online with you guys, and we did the screen sharing and really got to take a good look of what that looked like for us. And I highly recommend that to anyone that is going to start this program. It's just, and you guys were wonderful. You were like, absolutely. And, we hashed out things we liked, things we didn't, what we wanted to be different. even if it was just moving a box from one place to another because of accessibility and what we truly use and need to see first. Those things were so simple, but it was just, again, a matter of communication. And I will say that Mary talked about it being hard, and it was a hard transition. But recently, we've had the need to cross train and have Mary and Lisa do tags. But it was something, since I was new, I was learning my director job and the program, and it just, I did never dive into tags. And myself and Mallory, we also have been trained. And to be honest, it was really, we know how to renew now. I mean, it was actually very easy. It was a lot easier than I thought. But the other thing is, one day Mary and Lisa were both gone, and my administrator was trying to find some information on a vehicle and for insurance purposes. And I said, I don't know, but let me try. And I was able to get in there and literally find it in a period of about 3 minutes. And I was able to access what he needed, what the vehicle was, what department it belonged to. So, and I'd had zero experience in there. And so it is very user friendly once you understand what you're looking for.
Appreciate that. I appreciate the candidness. I think if any software vendor comes to you to sell you a solution and says, install this, there's going to be no problems, no hiccups, it's going to be seamless, everyone's going to love it on day one, they're probably not telling you the full story. So I appreciate your candidness and sharing that there are challenges that come with change and implementing a new solution. But the important thing is how we work through those, how we address those, and recognizing kind of what we're striving for, what the end goal is. So I love those experiences. Jana, you kind of mentioned this about the process of user adoption and what it takes to find success in user adoption. You talked about kind of cross training and how for you were able to get in the system when you needed to cover for someone and things like that. Anything else from your experience that you learned or would share with our attendees today about how to find success in user adoption during kind of training, but also going live with new software?
I think the one thing is to really make sure what you need. What is it that your end goal is? What does that look like? We've found some things that across departments that has been difficult, where vital statistics is kind of looked at as enrollment only, and we are basically the center of data, addresses, phone numbers, emails, and that affects tags, it affects member benefit. I mean, it affects literally every module we have. And communicating on how to keep that up to date. And that's why when you were talking about addresses and making it easy for members to do that, we have really struggled with that. We struggled with it before Arctic. This is allowing us to really kind of see how bad it was, to be honest. We'd have addresses that Mary would say, hey, this doesn't match, or can you update this? And the nice thing is, she'll have an address come in and she'll have a renewal come in and they've moved. So she just has them fill out the form, and within a period of, on the front end, I can change the address so she can be ready to go within a couple of minutes. Now there is more that needs to be done through the department, but giving her that freedom to just do it very quickly. And if she knows how to do it, if nobody's here to do it in the vital stats department, it just gives you some really good freedom, and it's easy to get a hold of. But the nice thing is the reporting on that end, it allows us to see if we have a mailing address, if we don't, only physical. I'm a big fan of the reports. I just am. And Mary can run all types of reports, and they all work hand in hand. Everything is cross department. We've even given specialized services view only ability through our member benefits, where they can see if someone is out of utility benefits, and then that way they can help them. It's just given us some flexibility. The downside is, I think that you need to make sure that your programs your information you have is correct and complete. We had an issue with that. We had gone from one program to another, and we had text in it about historical genealogy, and it was never put into the new program. So then when we went into Arctic and moved everything over, we still had text information. So we were missing information. And that's been a long process. I mean, we're still working on it now, and we'll be working on it for quite some time. And so I think the advice is know exactly what you want as best as you can. Make sure your information is complete and correct as best as you can, and have those open, honest communications about this isn't working for us, or this is the greatest thing ever. I mean, like I said, I love reports, and it's helped tremendously on us being able to make some corrections on some things that we needed to work on, as a department. So I'm grateful for that.
Thank you. I think that's a gold nugget of advice right there. Know what you want going into that. And it seems simple, but I can't tell you how many times we've experienced where, I've been on both ends of this as a customer and as a software solution provider, is understanding exactly what the need is, right? If you have bad data or your addresses are not in a good format, right? No fancy, expensive solution is going to fix that problem if you don't address the issue at hand, the data, for example. So recognizing what the real challenges are, and then having a solution that addresses those needs. I love that. I'm so
I
glad
think
also.
sometimes you have
Yeah.
to look at your own policy, though. So for this,
Mhm.
it has forced us to have specific policies. Like after someone turns 18, they can't share an email address. Just little things like that that you don't really think about. As a mom, I have all my kids' stuff. I fill everything out and for college, and I would use my email address. We had a scenario where we were working on the portal, and we had someone sign up for the portal, and she shared an email with her deceased son, and his stuff came up, not hers. And she was very emotional, and we felt horrible. But it's one of those things, you don't know what you don't know. So now we are really working on getting our 18-year-olds to do the paperwork, stand on their own, fill those things out. And so we've had to come up with policies about it. And that's the hard thing, is taking a look at your department, and not that you failed, but how do we move forward? How do we correct this? How do we get the information we need to use it appropriately and use the system correctly? And it's just taking a good look at your program, and being honest about what you need too. And how do we get there?
Yeah,
I think it helps
definitely.
to when you have those changes, you have whether it be a policy change or a process change that you need to do, that you can adapt to that too. And that's one of the things that we have with our tribal platform subscription, is that we also have that ability to have those reviews and check in with you, or you maybe have a question on how something works. You can contact our support team and say, I'm not quite sure how this is supposed to work. Can we get some additional training on this? Or, I think we need to make a modification here because time has happened. We need to move on. We need to change, like you say, the appearance of a screen, or moving things around to make things easier for us. So having that ability to have your software again adapt to those life events, to those policy events, is a major difference maker as well.
I also have a monthly check-in with Brandy. What's working,
Mm-hmm.
what's not, how can I help? What does that look like? And it may be just 5 minutes, or it may be 20 minutes. And as a director, that's been a blessing, because it allows us to stay on top of that and not have to wait, until we come together at our quarterly. It's been very helpful. So I'm grateful for that.
Wonderful.
Great. I'll let Brandy know she got a shout out today. Brandy's one of our client success managers at Arctic IT. And I think that's a great point you make, Jana, that as we get visibility into our data, right, those things that maybe we're doing that aren't compliant, or bad data we have, that stuff bubbles up. When the visibility increases, it's easier to see where we're lacking and what needs attention. Um, Excellent. Well, I'd also like to hear from you, Jana, if you could, about how the solution has affected your team's ability to report to leadership, and to meet other state reporting requirements that you have on the topic of reporting.
Well, I know that Mary sends in monthly reports to Chief for tags, so that's a given. They're monthly, and I also do the same thing as far as my budget and member benefits, and we send an enrollment, status of where we are, how many deaths we've had, etc. But I think the flexibility of building the reports is the best thing. Like you can go in and determine what data you need, how you need it, what you need to look at, looks like, how you want to, in what order it is. I've used more and more information to help people with grants. All the time I have someone call me and say, hey, I need to know how many people we have between this age group and that age group, and how many people live within 100 miles of us, or what are the the five most populated states, or just little things like that. And that's where me stressing the importance that vital stats is not just enrollment, it's the keeper of the data, and getting people to recognize that and the benefits of updating their information, addresses, emails, etc. And it's a process. And I think one of the hindrances we've had is we do direct deposit, and they quickly say, well, it doesn't matter because I get direct deposit. They don't realize the links that it goes through. It goes to tags, it goes to all of that. So educating your tribal members or citizens on what that data looks like and why it's vital is very important, and having those conversations. The one I will say that I have to back up when, Sarah, you were talking about the flexibility of being mobile. I was in Ohio with Chief last week or a week and a half ago, and I literally sat on a bus with my laptop and was able to take care of some work that came across and made a huge difference. I sat in the lobby of the hotel and registered 3 of our members that had turned 18 to vote, and we updated their information and got them in the portal. And that accessibility was huge because it allowed me to be gone and do my job with Chief on this trip and not come back to a nightmare. I was able to filter things out, do what I needed to do. She'd ask me questions and I was able to pull those numbers really quick and take care of that. That flexibility is huge. And until you started talking about it, I didn't really think about, I sat on the bus for 2 hours while they were out looking at something and I'm typing away, taking care of something. I was able to change data. I updated information. I did all kinds of things. Huge. So, and it was something I think that we take for granted, really, because I really hadn't thought about it. But that accessibility was wonderful. So it allowed. Go ahead.
I apologize. Being out of the office too, like, can I successfully and securely access my member data? And that's something that we take very serious. I mean, your member data is sacred to you. It's sacred to us as well. So knowing that when you're on a remote location like that, on a bus in the little hotel lobby, that all that data traffic that you're having is encrypted and it's secure, and that Microsoft is constantly, reevaluating their posture and making sure, as Blake mentioned, it is best in class security. That's a great story. Thank you for sharing that, Jana.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. So as we've kind of talked about, Eastern Shawnee Tribe, Oklahoma has implemented some of our TIC solutions, including our titles and tags solution. So I'd love to hear from Mary. Since transitioning to tribal platforms, and Mary's been doing this for a while now, even before we partnered with them. What features, Mary, have made the biggest difference to you in your day-to-day operations with the new platform?
Well, I think the new system has made our tag program more compliant by requiring every field to be completed before you can move on to the next step. It will prompt you to make sure that you have filled everything out before you can go on. And we've also been able to, like, if we needed some changes, request changes if needed to the system to help it make it more efficient and more flexibility for our needs. It's been awesome.
That's so great to hear. I love that, it streamlines processes. It doesn't need to change processes, right? There may be change involved in learning a new software, but ultimately, if the system can't conform to what you do, then there's less of a transitionary stage, right? Recognize that there are still things that you need to learn with a new platform and new software. I'd love to hear from either of you. Let's say from Jana first, what advice or lessons you would give to a tribal government leader who's considering moving their DMV operations to the cloud or to a modern solution. Any advice that you would share?
I think the one thing that we've done through this process is we've gone back and changed our forms. Mary's created lean paperwork. We've changed our, information, that we need to send out. And I just think that's going to happen if you change. It just will. So have those conversations. Mary has a really good connection with someone in a different tribe, and we always talk back and forth to Kim and just kind of see what they do. Look at what other people do and have that ready, that knowledge of what you want, because it takes away from the time of having to wait for a change. So again, it's that communication and talk about what you really want. And even if it's as simple as format or where your logo goes, or, what information you want on there, or if it's going to be, you need it to be at a certain color of font, or just the most minute things. But then whenever you look at it and it's there, you're like, So have those honest conversations. It's okay to say, we really want this. And it's better to ask for it than not be able to than not ask at all. It's kind of like you don't know what you don't know. So put yourself out there. Just have the honest conversation and also know what your expectations are. You really want this or you really don't want that, and have a candid conversation. I think that, again, communication is the most important part of this.
I love that. And if I could even add to that, communication with your software vendor is great, but also just communication with other tribes to see what they're doing. That's why I love what TribalHub provides for us in forums like this, to get together, for us to hear from other tribal leaders and see what they're doing on their side. And hopefully this has been educational and instructional for those of you that are attending, listening to what Jana and Mary have shared about their experiences, the ups and the downs and the challenges and the benefits, recognizing that as we share with each other within the community, that helps us all to learn, helps us all to grow, helps us all to make the right decisions ultimately for our organizations. So I appreciate that very much. And I'm so glad we've had Sarah with us on the conversation. She's the one that's on the front lines with these wonderful women and their teams implementing these solutions. And I'd love to give Sarah a minute to share if she likes anything else that she would, based on her experience working with Eastern Shawnee Tribe, Oklahoma, and our titles and tag solutions.
Yeah, thank you, Blake. I first of all, thank you, Jana and Mary, for sharing your wisdom, your expertise, your guidance for tribes. I think, like I said, we're very blessed to have you on this call. We're very blessed to get to work with you and have a great partnership. And we definitely want to partner with tribes to better help serve your members. And whether it's modernizing your titles and tags solution, modernizing your enrollment process, as you mentioned, your member benefits and claims. As you're thinking through these processes, as you're working with the member, is there a better way that we can work together amongst the multiple departments that you have that you're serving your members? Can we do something better to make the process more efficient, make it seamless for them, be able to transfer that knowledge and that data very easily? And I think Eastern Shawnee is a great pioneer in that area and thinking of ways to help modernize and digitize the solutions for serving your members, which is really great. So again, thank you for being here. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Blake, I had a couple questions come in on chat. Are you ready to take some of those?
Yeah, Blake is muted, and I would say I think he's saying
okay.
yes.
All right, here we go. Okay, question. This is for Jana and Mary, it looks like. Once you made the decision to move to modern titles and tags system, how long did it take to implement?
Wow, we set a date when they came in with Sarah, and we spent like 3 days, and we did a training. We kind of closed the office down, and we went live the second day. I mean, as soon as they were here, and and the nice thing about it is we went live and we still worked through, things. We actually kept our other program up and running in case we needed it and if something wasn't working. But the minute they were here for training, we were live. I mean, is that not correct, Mary? Like within just a couple of days.
Yes, just a couple of days. I agree. Yes.
And I can speak to some of that too. Like before that, we'd had conversations on how do you calculate your fees, what information, what do you want your reports to look like? So there is a little bit of a buildup of gathering the unique tribal requirements for
Right.
that. But you're right, we came on site, we did training, we went live, we were there to support during the go live process. So when you're working with live member data and entering the transactions in the system and generating new titles, we were there to do that with you, which was a wonderful experience.
I think that's why when I said, know what you want, what you need, what you want your paperwork to look like, because that alleviates the multiple days of conversation about, well, we would like this, or we want it to look like this. If you already know, when you sit with them, that takes away that time where you could have already gone live because it's done. So if you know that ahead of time, it makes that transition a lot quicker and a lot easier.
Jana and Mary, for a tribe that might be on the call today, and this is maybe their first webinar, their first thought of like making this change, or adding this to, as a service for members, what would you recommend their first step be, their first communication? Like what should they really take away from this and be like, okay, that's something I can do this week to maybe take that step in this direction?
Wow. I think for me, it would be, I know that we're talking about tags, but there's so many other modules that, you can get through the program, which is wonderful. And we started out with 3 programs, which was difficult. I think that what's your priority, every tribe is doing something different. If it's tags, you still have to have your vital information correct. And I think it's just take a hard look at what you're looking at as a tribe. Where do you start? Is it vital statistics? So you have all your data correct and have that up and going. If I would have been involved, that would have been my first module, is having vital statistics, not even necessarily the enrollment component of it, just having the address information, all your vital information, making sure every tribal member is in there. If you have your ancestors, I mean, we have the opportunity to add our base rolls from our 38s and our 64s in there to build family trees. This is beyond anything that you can imagine, the capacity. But for me, if I would have been in from the get-go with what I know now, I would have set up a vital stats module first, made sure all that data is correct, because it affects literally tags, benefits, education, etc. Do you have to do that? No, you don't. But it does give you that information, allows you to check addresses, because you have to be in Oklahoma to get a tag. It gives you some security, and that compliance component with vital stats. So for me, I would do vital stats first. That makes the most sense to me. That doesn't mean you have to, but that's just what I would do.
Thank you. Any other questions, Michelle, that we didn't get to?
Nope, that was it. That
Okay.
was the last one. Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Well, we appreciate you all. I know we're just about time here. Michelle launched a little poll within the Zoom meeting, so if you got that and want to respond to that, we appreciate it. But as mentioned earlier, we're grateful for your attendance today. Thanks for joining us as we explored a little bit in this space of modern software solutions for tribal DMVs. Again, we're so grateful to Jan and Mary for their really pioneering in this effort for their tribe, but also teaching us kind of lessons learned. And we, Sarah and I, and Arctic IT have learned a lot from them and are grateful for their partnership. Grateful for TribalHub as well for hosting this and for all the amazing things they do within the community. If you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out. You can find more information about us on arcticit.com and through the communication from this webinar as well. With that, we'll let you all go. Have a great day.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good day. Talk to you soon.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.